Good afternoon, Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com here with your Hurricane and Hurricane HD video blog for Friday, August 24th, 2012. Taking a look at Isaac here. I'm going to zoom in on the satellite picture. This is an infrared satellite picture, so the colored cloud tops equate to different temperatures, and the higher up the cloud tops go, in other words, on the right-hand side of the scale here, the colder those cloud tops are, and the more intense the convection. Center of Isaac somewhere right in here. Apparently, it is trying to get itself better organized, as indicated from the reconnaissance planes that are flying in and around the storm. It's running out of time, though. It's headed towards Hispaniola, and if it's going to intensify into a hurricane before getting there, it needs to do so quickly. Hopefully, for their sake, it does not, because all by itself, as it is now, it poses a significant flood threat because of the large circulation envelope, and you just never know down there. Unfortunately, there's been some major catastrophes over the years from tropical cyclones. The track does take it officially up towards the west-northwest, and then it eventually with a landfall up in the Panhandle. We'll look at the track actually in just a moment. Isaac still has to pass over some fairly warm sea surface temperatures, especially up here in the Florida Straits and the southwest Atlantic Ocean, the extreme southwest Atlantic. It does not look like now that it's going to take this path, as the Euro was indicating for several days, which would put it over the warmest heat potential water in the Atlantic Basin. Looking at the Hurricane Center's forecast track, this may have to start shifting east even more. I know that's going to start getting to be frustrating for people, that it seems like it's windshield wipering back and forth, but it's really not all that much, and that's what the cone of uncertainty is for. If you're anywhere inside this cone of uncertainty at days 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1 and beyond, well, you know, certainly where it is now is where it is, but looking out into the future, you have to realize that the uncertainty is always there. That this means that at day 5, Isaac's center could be anywhere from New Orleans to darn near Atlanta up here, if not right over Atlanta, to somewhere over near Cedar Key. That the uncertainty over the years in the guidance is such that it could be 225, 250, 300 miles, you never know, away from the official forecast point. And Isaac is a large storm, so its effects are going to reach a large area. It's not a tiny dot like these forecast points. These are just for the center of circulation. If it had an eye, that would be for the eye forecast, where the center is. So this is the forecast from last night, and yeah, it was aimed towards the Mississippi-Alabama border, whereas today it's over here in the Panhandle. That's not really that far. You know, when you think about it, it's just a change in the angle overall, and it comes into the Panhandle instead. Now, I think that the forecast, even from where we are here, is going to be shifted over even more to the east, and I'll show you why in just a moment. So this is the GFS, the very latest run from this morning, and this is the current conditions. Here is your ridge of high pressure, the Bermuda High sitting out here, also known as the subtropical ridge, and then it's broken. You can clearly see that. There's another edge of it here, a chunk of it, and you have this alleyway sitting right here, that if everything stayed the same and only Isaac was moving, it would take that alleyway. Well, things are changing. They're dynamic. They change every second. So if we go out into time, this is valid Saturday morning. Tomorrow morning, Isaac cutting over Hispaniola, western portions of Haiti here, the extreme eastern side of Cuba, and trying to get into the extreme southwest Atlantic Ocean here. At day 2, 48 hours out, look at this. This is a pretty substantial change, putting a definite threat to southeast Florida here. See? There's southeast Florida. There's Isaac coming in after being over the water for almost 24 hours at this point. And there are some very high heat content values in that water. The GFS indicating a pretty significant system here. In the model field, we're looking at the 500 millibar level, which is about 18,000 or so feet up in the atmosphere. At day 3, 72 hours out, very close to Sarasota and vicinity, cutting across from here up to here. So southeast Florida, southwest Florida, the whole southern third of the peninsula, under potential hurricane conditions if this intensifies enough. Obviously, this being Monday morning, the National Convention, the Republican National Convention starting in Tampa, this could pose major problems for that. And this being a large storm, its effects are going to reach millions of people in Florida. Then at day 4, it looks like it gets stronger as it heads up towards the Panhandle, cutting across just a little bit of open Gulf there. So this track like this through Florida, according to the latest run of the GFS, brings the peninsula back into play. Is there a chance that this could swing even more to the east and cut up east of Florida towards North Carolina? Big question mark there. I'd have to say, well, I don't see anything that shows that in any of the models. And fortunately, because that would be a pretty bad track, it would give it a lot of time over water. Fortunately, we do see this ridge nosing back in enough, holding firm enough, that the alleyway seems to be right through here, with Isaac taking the middle of that for the most part. And day 5 is sitting over east central Georgia, raining itself out, bringing very, very squally conditions even to parts of the southeast. So inland areas, this is going to be your storm too, not just a coastal concern. We'll address that more in the coming days. Now this is contradictory to what the Euro shows at day 5, which is very close to Pensacola area of Florida. The day 5 GFS sitting right over here in east central Georgia. The day 5 Euro from last night's run, mind you, whereas the GFS is this morning's run, so 12-hour difference. But the difference is pretty wide here in terms of where it is at day 5. We will see what the 12Z Euro shows. It doesn't start coming out until later this afternoon, I should say, usually after about 2:30, 3 o'clock or so. And I'm sure you can find that on your favorite social media site, depending on who you follow. You'll see that latest Euro information. Remember, the Euro, the ECMWF, was leading the charge for that westward movement all along. Now the GFS indicating much more of an eastward shift. We'll see if the Euro follows suit. Again, I am Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com, my website. Hopefully you'll check it out sometime if you haven't already. Always a pleasure to bring you these informative video blogs for Hurricane and Hurricane HD. And with that, I'll have another one for you tomorrow.